Thank you for joining me on my show. This is The Lookout Guy. And the title of today's show, Notre Dame, Media Frenzy and Holy Week. It is 11:03 a.m. Pacific Time, Wednesday, April 17th, 2019. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful Easter week, Holy Week. And, I'm going to call a friend right now. And it's funny because actually I didn't go live this time. I'm recording right now. And I'm recording live. Something like that. And I got to call his friend. My friend Richard. I've had him on the show a bunch of times. And we've got to talk about Notre Dame, California, the Media Frenzy, and Holy Week. And let's see, here he is.
What?
Hey, what are you doing?
Hello?
Hey, what are you doing?
Hey, wait.
What are you doing?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, I thought, man, why is this thing not working now?
Oh my goodness. What's
Yeah.
going on? You got an Apple, right?
No, I had to push my speaker.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I put you on the loudspeaker in the van. I can hear you good now.
You just now getting home?
No, I'm still going to work and want to drive up, pick up the kids in about a half hour or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm still on the clock. I'm just sitting in a parking lot where I do in Del Mar, where I just kick back for a couple hours because it's a half day.
Yeah.
So my half day is I don't go back home. I just hang out here, just because it doesn't make any sense just to drive back and then drive back. When I get home, it'd be like an hour or so where I have to come back. So I thought, just kick it back here down in Del Mar.
Yeah. Well, you're live on the Michael Tobin Show, The Lookout Guy, on Spreaker. No, you're not live. I'm actually recording it because for some reason when I just go, suddenly just go live or something, I freak out and get nervous and I fumble over all my notes. So I'm recording it, but anyhow, all this stuff going on with Notre Dame, Media Frenzy, and Holy Week. The media has finally done their homework, and at first they were going according to stuff that's in Wikipedia, but they all got it together now. They did all the homework. 800 and something churches in France in the past year being desecrated and stuff like that.
Yep, and Fox News and the rest of them won't report it.
Yeah, and it's almost like they don't really know what kind of narrative to take about it, though. Because
no control. They can't. They have to keep the propaganda going. And even Fox does it. So not Hannity or they're not allowed to even touch it. Unless they want to keep their jobs. But it's like I said, that article that you said was satire about the chemtrails. No, that was true.
Yeah, you got to find an article about that, though, because it seems like I saw something like that before.
I did. The Guardian had it. MSNBC had it, but now you can't find it anywhere. And I remember that somebody did that when he was running in 2017. He went to Boeing, and he actually did do that. There was a lot of military people that backed him up that even spoke on talk shows about that, your radio talk shows, and not like the freaky ones, not Alex Jones either, because that's not where I got it from. Because I've been in the chemtrail world for a long time. I've been in it since the 80s, and I remember totally true, totally remember. And there was one article that you could find that after he got elected, there was an article that came out that because it was at the same time they wrote the vaccinations, that Trump does believe that vaccinations causes autism. He does believe that, and he's even said it. And but now you can't find these articles because when he went to Boeing is one of the major companies and Lockheed. He went and so they could get better at it. Where it's like that plane in Ethiopia, right? Somehow they didn't find the body, no bodies, no body parts. They just vaporized, right?
Yeah.
They just vaporized. That was a chemtrail plane that got shot down. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That's a theory. That's a satire. But they didn't find one. I mean, guarantee it. Those people were vaporized. Otherwise, they didn't exist. Or they could have just been dead bodies. Or thrown on there, but there's no body parts from the Ethiopian crash from Boeing, and you got to remember Boeing and Lockheed, which were had government contracts, they're not military planes that are flying those chemtrails. They're planes that are probably on the military, or somebody knows something that's going on because today, if you look up in the skies today, and they came out with that article. There's not a plane flying any chemtrails in sight right at this moment. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yesterday there were chemtrails all over the place. And today, I'm driving every morning and I watch a clear sky come up every morning. Nothing, no clouds, nothing. And then by the time I'm finished my job, I take pictures of them every day. Every time that they spray. So I know Trump knows about it, except, like I said, they're closing it up again. They're trying to. He's not going to come directly out and say it because he can't do it yet. He has to. He has to have it investigated. So when because they're going to attack him.
It's always worse around cold and flu season, and by every Thursday, I notice the pattern. By Thursday they start, and it goes on throughout the end of the week into the weekend. And then by the next week, people are showing up to work with sniffles, or they call in sick because they got sudden flu.
Yeah, it's respiratory, and
I noticed that.
But they're spraying things into our water, and it goes on to our food and stuff like that. So they're doing all that.
Yeah, Northern California, some county up in Northern California, they had a meeting with a bunch of various different kind of military officers and government workers, and they talked about it, and it's fact. It really is fact. It's not just cloud seeding. Because you could see those chemtrails. They're not comtrails. Condensation. It's not that. The chemtrails, they spread out, and then they start to look like clouds, but you can see the definite pattern, of course, and it spreads, and you get a whole bunch of them. And it has a type of aluminum in the soil because of mist or rain, and
And
so there's not a place in California, I don't think anymore, that doesn't have those chemicals in the soil.
No, they're all over. I mean, come on, Monsanto, is still legal in America, where other countries have. We don't want genetic food. We want regular natural food that grows from cow poop. Regular cow poop. No, insecticides. They already got orange oils, and they took out DEET, which DEET wasn't harmful. They stopped, doing DEET, and they already. You got to remember, my dad's a chemist. He's a biochemist. He was a research chemist. He was doing it for 50 years. And I ask him these questions and stuff like that about certain chemicals in the air. He explains what, and I talk about the chemtrails in the air with him. Always, he just kind of says, he doesn't really say much because he used to have security clearance. But he says, there's certain things that there was an article out that I can't find, but I saved it, I thought, but it was a link, and I didn't really, I don't know if I copied the whole thing and put it on my computer. I don't even remember. But it was an article that came out last year. It was saying that they wanted to spray things in the sky to block the sun out and to control global warming.
Oh, and, yeah. That was a big idea. Yeah.
And that was right after they said that Trump, when he did inspect these planes, he knows what's going on, but he can't come out and say it because of the propaganda machine. And they're looking for anything they can, even if they listen to us, it will be considered satire. And thank God it will be, because for me right now, it's because they can't use it against them. They'll just think we're a bunch of conspiracy nuts, which, like I said, I'm not. I'm a conspiracy analyst because I like them. I think they're cool. I think they're good it keeps it interesting. It's kind of like a mystery novel, You get to kind of look into this stuff. And, look, I always liked it because, I'm an Art Bell fan. I always loved listening to, I love science fiction. And, of course we do. It's like fascinating things, if you want to be a fictional author, like, I want to be like me, if I ever decide to finish all the little ideas that I had that I wrote down just to write stories, and practice writing that way. You think, conspiracies are a good thing to get into, but most of them, are conspiracies. We already know it because this Russian conspiracy, going after Trump for 2 years and finding nothing, and now that the report of Mueller report is coming out on Thursday.
Tomorrow.
And already they've been pumping up their narrative to speak against it. You heard what's his name, Joe Schmo, the guy was a congressman who had an intern die, and when he was alone with her or something, she died. Somehow he got away with it. Then he marries Mika Brzezinski, whose father is a population control man. He wants to, he's basically, that's how she got in there, because she's a moron, And so you have these people that, that machine that want to go after Trump for anything. Then now they're going to go after this report. And like I said, they're trying to find, they're trying to find anything that can stick on this guy, and it's not going to work because the guy's a smart man. He's not going to nothing's going to stick on him. None of the sexual things. I don't believe that Trump. If you ever actually listen to some of his employees saying that, well, he's kind of, he's not that type. He's never been that type of guy. He's not a sleep around guy. He doesn't he didn't sleep with prostitutes or pornography. If he was going to sleep with anybody, it had to be a quality woman from the Miss Universe.
Yeah.
And she ran the pageant. Come on, the guy ran the pageant for years. Before he married one. It's just, they make up all this stuff about the guy. I mean, and anything they can. But it's that group of people, the Klan DNC, I call it, because they are still the Klan. They will never. That title will never lead them. They can never blame a Republican for that, even though, like I said, the only Republican that came into this party that was from the Klan was Strom Thurmond. That was the only one. And then ever since Strom Thurmond, became, a reformed guy, and he quit the KKK, which he never did, and joined Strom Thurmond from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, that's when they got the tag. That's when everybody turned, said, oh, the Republican Party changed, now they're the KKK.
Yeah.
And I'm going, you guys are stupid.
And they waited until the 1980s before just a few of the Democrats switched to the Republican Party. Because they knew it was obvious, evident, and we didn't have the internet back then, like we do now. But it was obvious to people who would go to the libraries and look at microfiche or look at periodicals and newspapers and things and books, politicians, memoirs. You used to have to go to the library, but it was obvious to anybody who researched that way that the Democrat Party is the KKK is deeply embedded into the Democrat Party. And it still is.
They were formed by the Democratic Party.
Yes.
They were shot down, and then Woodrow Wilson, President Woodrow Wilson.
They're no different from the Muslim Brotherhood when they started. When did they start? Like in the early 1900s or something, and then they had a 100-year plan to take over the world with Islam, and with the couple of years ago, within 5 years ago, the 100 years is up, and they still haven't controlled it, the world. But they're wreaking havoc in Europe, except for just a couple of countries, maybe the Czech Republic or something, or and Poland.
They're looking up into France over this weekend.
No terrorism in there, and no Muslim raping their people because they can't find a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like what just happened in Minnesota. Muslim immigrant, pulled a 5-year-old child from a lady and threw him over a balcony at a mall. The Mall of America, they call it. That's like the biggest mall in the United States, isn't it? I think.
I think that's in.
But the child lived, and he's going to recover, but he's in critical condition right now. And this happened the same day, Sunday, Palm Sunday, that the Notre Dame caught fire. So, but yesterday they finally started reporting it on all of the networks.
Well, yeah, because it was district. It's one of those Muslim women's district too. So, and it's in Minnesota of all places. Oh, wow, isn't that Minnesota? Yeah, isn't that where it's at?
Yeah, Minnesota, the Mall of America. Oh, and sorry for interrupting you all these times. You're a good listener, but it's because I'm trying to keep it to like maybe an hour and a half show or something like that.
Look at the media. Nothing. It is so blatant, and I kept, people are waking up and seeing this because of the fact that here's a guy that takes an innocent white kid. Come on, it happened to a white kid. They're not going to push it. They're not going to push anything, because they got to continue thinking. Pushing this white supremacy. It is when the Democratic Party has always been the party of white supremacy and segregation. Not change.
Now there's some 18-year-old young lady in Denver, and they're on a manhunt. I believe they caught her, but it sounds like now this, I believe, could be a false flag event.
Well, it is because
she bought a shotgun, bought some ammo, and she's infatuated with the Columbine event. She's 18 years old.
Yeah, well, the funny thing
and this is how the media is affecting the brains of young people and elder people. There's no age limit to stupidity when it comes to the media because they're so crafty. And we got the internet, and all of a sudden everybody thinks they're an expert.
Yeah, and I don't believe that person is 18 years old if you look at her picture.
Yeah.
She's not 18. And plus, guess what? At the same time this thing is going out, they're doing it on purpose. Somebody in Colorado at the same time, I was at Fort Carson in Colorado too, in the same vicinity, there's a lost soldier with the same exact, almost similar description as this 18-year-old that they said they're looking for, and they sent out the helicopters and military search party looking for this lost female soldier who is supposed to be out in the wilderness. So there's two stories conflicting with each other. So who knows? Maybe this is the lost woman that she got lost on a training course, right? So now they're going, oh hey, that's in the Columbine. Let's use this gal and let's make another Columbine. We need something. We need anything. Well, we got to bring up another Columbine thing, and you got to remember the Columbine were people that were that hated. And their families were all, leftist Democrats.
Oh, yeah. Every single one of these things has aspects about the perpetrator being chemically imbalanced. They may have been off of their medications or they're on medications, but whatever the case, they don't know how to handle anger. But there's a old saying that the American Italian mafia says, let's find a nut to do the job.
Yeah, well, that could be a Manchurian candidate.
They always find a nut to do something, and I hate to say the word nut, but that's the figure of speech that they use. So why would there be a, this, because I'm the one that said that I believe this is a false flag. So, but why right now would there be a false flag in the United States? And my thoughts to the answer to that would be because of the narrative for the Notre Dame event is still up in the air. And they're saying everything and anything, but they're not coming to a conclusion on what their narrative is. And that brings me to a guy named Donahue. He's like a Catholic spokesperson, and Neil Cavuto cut him off, hung up on him, because he started talking about, of course, this is terrorism. There has been roughly 850 churches in France that have been vandalized and or burned, and now on Palm Sunday this happens. And when they do an investigation, they've already concluded that it was an accident, and there's still piles of water inside that whole property.
Yeah,
and they always say we ruled out terrorism the same hours. The fire department responded 2 hours later. How could the fire department respond 2 hours later to something like that?
They did.
And they didn't get it out. It took them at least after 6 hours of the fire starting, they finally got it under control.
Yeah, why did Macron show up at the police department and the fire department before he went to saying that he went to go investigate the Gothic church?
Yeah.
And then all these other European media spokespeople not calling it a church or a Christian church.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't even use the word church.
Oh, here's a point that is related to. I was listening to a little bit of Rush Limbaugh this morning, and he talked to this guy. I didn't find his. I didn't write his name down, but he says he's a very good expert in what is going on with this church, and he says that everybody wants to rebuild it, but when it comes time to rebuilding it, they're going to run into problems because of what the origins of the doctrine and dogma that in so many words, the Catholic Church stood for and stands for. Who's going to want to be a part of the Salem witch trials, the Inquisition, and everything that was built during all the Inquisitions? They had the Spanish, the French Inquisition, Portuguese Inquisition, and it didn't completely end until during the 1800s. So that was a pretty neat point, So this is another part of a narrative that they're just confused about. How are they going to keep people motivated to rebuild that thing, knowing what the Roman Catholic Church stands for?
Well,
what a wrench in the wheel.
Yeah, well, you got to remember the Puritan Salem witch trials, which were done by people that were infected. There was a sickness going on.
Yeah. And this was several hundred years after the Notre Dame Church started, and just my research from Wikipedia, yesterday or a couple days ago, that Notre Dame was one of the first structures built using Gothic style. And I don't like those gargoyles, but I don't think there's any gargoyles on that one. But later on, they started using gargoyles on Gothic buildings. It had to have been later, because there's no gargoyles on this building. But it did point out that was in the beginnings of the Gothic architecture.
You got to remember, there was a schism in Rome, and Rome became the church after 1049. But you got to remember that Lyons they had their own pope, and then Rome had their own pope, and there was a clash between. And then the Eastern Orthodox, and then the Armenian, and then the Ethiopian, they all had their church leaders. And still to this day, they had the 12 patriarchs in the Eastern Orthodox do. They're all called the 12 patriarchs. And so you gotta understand the whole church. The Gothics were just way different from the Roman Catholics, and they were a different, breed of people. But they're all still, it was still based on Arius' interpretation that Constantine took, and Gnostics. They're the Gnostic church that it's always been. That's why they are known by their symbol, and all their symbolism that's not Christian symbolism. Nothing really to do with. It's all pagan symbolism that that Rome adopted with Arius and Constantine, because he wasn't he was a believer because of his mother, sort of, but he had power. He was in the world. But, God used Constantine, even though he was a pagan still, to stop the persecution. So,
I have my skepticism about Constantine, but I was researching Holy Week, and Constantine actually ordered that no work is to be done during Holy Week, and no work is to be done during the week after Holy Week, and even all of the courts, everything is to shut down during Holy Week and the week after Holy Week because of Jesus.
Yeah,
so I have a hard time believing that somebody could walk into this Notre Dame and actually get a good gospel message and be saved and filled with the Holy Spirit. But just two positive notes. One is what you did a commentary on a post about how great it is of capitalists, and even in a country that taxes the people to death so much that Gerard Depardieu, in my opinion, the greatest modern actor in the world, in France, he became a Russian citizen, and I have to look him up. That was like a fleeting thought the other day. I want to look up Gerard Depardieu and see what he thinks about this in his home country. But capitalists, even though they're taxed so much, they're donating tens of millions of dollars to the effort to rebuild this. And another positive note, which is a plus for capitalism, another positive note is Rush Limbaugh. He was saying that there's no way that something that fantastic that would take over 100 years to build was not inspired by a genuine love for Jesus Christ. And that just threw my skepticism aside, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, so your point needs to be pushed to create a narrative, and Rush Limbaugh's point about they really did have a genuine love for Jesus Christ should be, because there's still no narrative. Everybody's confused because there's so much that could be taken on it. And that's what the media frenzy is going on right now. They just don't have a narrative. So there's this Denver 18-year-old girl with a shotgun and ammo thing. I think that is a diversion from all this stuff.
It's obvious.
Because of that California legislator who is just threw out his hat. He threw his hat in as a Democrat candidate for U.S. president for 2020. I can't believe that James Tapper on CNN said, so what would be the consequences for people not turning in their guns, their firearms that are deemed illegal? And he said that they would be prosecuted. So the whole state of California's sheriff's associations, sheriffs are still not going door to door and confiscating weapons of felons who have since become ineligible to have firearms because they were eligible, they have firearms, and then they committed some felony, and that makes them ineligible. So the sheriff said that we don't have the people to do it, and they're not saying, and we don't want to die. So even California is not going door to door getting felons firearms from them, and that's what this is leading up to. As long as people keep on electing Democrats, and I think, like you said, it's not wishful thinking, I hope, but people are waking up to all this.
Yeah, well, it has to be, because it's like, the diversion with, I think it's definitely, somebody asked the question, what was the first thought that came to your mind when, Notre Dame was burning? I said it was arson. And the only reason why I said it was arson is because of the fact that they already had somebody in custody a couple of days before for setting other fires in other churches in France. It's already what's going on. It was not, I heard about it right before we knew about Notre Dame. We already knew it. We knew that it's not just started here in Louisiana. We had we had burnings down there, and another distraction to create a race war between Christians, and a white guy did it, but he was not a white, supremacist or whatever. I don't know what he was. Like Dylan, that one kid who went to school. It was a white guy that did that. He was another drugged out pawn, and it started a race war. This is also to start another, retaliation against all the people protesting in France that like Trump. And so, what did they do? It kind of makes sense. It's, like I said, probably still satire until the evidence comes out. But it would make sense for a corrupted set of wicked people that are globalists to do. They're doing whatever they can because they know with Trump in power and Trump changing minds. Like I said, I mean, who in the world ever would thought after 70 years that we would have really good, decent talks with North Korea? I mean, that was, next to impossible. I mean, there's things going on that Trump's doing, and like I said, I do believe he's anointed by God. I believe God put him there because he's answered our prayers. And even though we're still sitting on the edge of our seat, we are. We're still, we're still at that point where we could lose, everything that we have, and hopefully, that, like I said, I believe he's going to get the next 4 years, and I hope after all that, we'll stop the voter fraud. We'll stop. I totally want to ban electronic voting and go right back to regular paper again. There was no hanging chad. There was no problem with that system. That was all made up. I worked and did that with my mom when my mom volunteered down the street off of, Mead in Dalton, right there, that Methodist church in Normal Heights. Remember that place?
Yeah. That's where it's a popular place for local bands to have concerts, and local Christian bands like Jared DeMeek. And what's his name? Dr. Seahorse, what's his name? But I've seen both of them play there.
Yeah, and that's where I voted for years. Ever since I was voting, that's where I voted for Roger Hedgecock, and we volunteered, and I knew what the ballots had. They were very sophisticated ballots. There's no way. What happened in 2001 was it with Bush? That and Gore thing, the whole thing, that any of those votes or hanging chads or all that whole thing, I looked at that and I laughed and I talked to you. I said that is such bullcrap.
Yeah, okay, check this out. After the Bush election, where he beat Mr. Internet, Al Gore, the Al Gore of Notre Dame. Oh my goodness, no pun intended on that one. Holy mackerel.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Al Gore. But anyways, after that one, the big, I call him a fake president. We didn't have a valid president. We just had a puppet in the office. He wasn't even a president. He can't be a president with a capital P. And But Joan Rivers, she was on Donald Trump's show. What was that show called?
The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, yeah, she was on it. But she was asked, what do you think about having the United States having a gay president? And she says, well, we already have a homosexual in the White House. And she was referring to Michelle Obama being a transvestite.
Yeah.
And whoa, what a crazy thing to say. Well, she died in a 20-minute non-invasive operation that was a very common and not dangerous at all.
Yeah.
And so she died from that. And but their plans are foiled, and at every cost. You know, the Democrats like to say at all costs, and politicians like to say, when they say at all costs, that means at all costs, and the death toll is rising with the Clintons. Yeah, that's their plan. Their plan is to have a black president, a female president, and a gay president, and it just hasn't happened. You know.
Yeah, well, we got the gay guy Butledge, whatever his name is, who's coming out, but they're like making a big hype about it. But he only had like 1,600 people show up, and like I said, compared to what Donald Trump had each time that he visits, right? It's like Beto O'Rourke. They said that he had thousands that were there, and it's come to find out in El Paso that he had about maybe 250 or so.
Yeah.
So, and this is coming from somebody I know from El Paso, and that Beto's not really that popular. I mean, they actually really don't like him because he didn't do anything when he was Congress, because he's an idiot. He's just a rich kid moron. That's all he is. Mom was a judge, and he's an Irish guy who thinks that he's Mexican. He's come, my name is Beto, and it's like, your name, you never were a Beto. You never were called that to you politician.
Yeah, his name's not even Beto. His grandfather named him, gave him the nickname Beto because as a child he told him that it would help to have a Spanish name if you were to decide to run for office locally.
That's not what happened. He did that because they had to make something up.
Yeah.
And I don't believe because you can't believe anybody that's a Democrat any longer because they're pathological. They're pathological. Yeah. If they don't,
yeah. But he's white. He's white as Weber's bread.
Yeah, and it's
he's
like
no Spanish.
Bernie Sanders. They're saying, "Oh, Bernie Sanders had a really good run last night." I said, "You got to be kidding me." He was losing it. He was stuttering. He was like a stuttering prick. He couldn't, when he was challenged, they still threw softballs at him, right?
Yeah.
So, and you could saw that he got really upset when somebody asked him about his 20% tax rate, and you just saw him like almost having a heart attack because you weren't supposed to ask me that question, you see, and
yeah.
Attitude. And then the media is, and said, "Oh, you had a really guy." I was listening to a couple talk shows, and some talk show guys, they just go along with the media, which I can't stand. Oh no, they said he did really good, and I said he didn't do well at all. He couldn't even explain when he was asked how if things are free, who is paying for it?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't answer that. He kept talking in circles of how things are going to be free to college tuition. Who is going to be paying for that? All of a sudden, it got shifted somewhere else because he knows, that the taxpayer will be paying for it. And it means all of us will be paying for somebody's free college tuition, and that's not what we pay taxes for. No, nothing's free for anybody. Nothing is free in life. Nothing is free, Handouts are not free,
Yeah.
And to come from somewhere, just like in a zoo, that's not free. The admission price and selling food there and stuff has to go to feed the adults and the employees, And here's this guy who has 3 mansions, by the way. A picture of him in a nice Corvette or something. And And, he's now just admitted that he's a millionaire when he's been a millionaire for a long time. And, it's just a complete joke. It's like, it's so pathological lying considerably that you're like, even some of the rhinos, I'm not gonna cut them short either, because there's a lot of rhinos coming out, like Romney, another freaking liar, whose father was a Democrat, and so he was always a Democrat. Here he goes, Romney never lived in Utah ever, and so he moved to Utah to run for Senate. That is pathetic, and it's like, he has houses he should have at least done it in California. He he's lived out in La Jolla, for a long time. He likes La Jolla. And Massachusetts, he's not originally from Massachusetts. He's from Minnesota or Michigan. He's from Michigan. That's where his father was a senator from Michigan. So it shows you that these people, they're pathological. They have, they may sound good, but Romney, he was a great business guy. I said, no.
They're manic, depressant, pathological.
They're politicians.
Everything in the book. Narcissists, everything.
Yeah, they didn't, like I said, Jerry Brown, another governor's kid.
They need to be checked for drugs. We the people have to do all these P tests every time we go from job to job, and it's nearly impossible to find one job to last your whole work life. And the ones that are requiring people to do these urine tests, Alexandria Ocasio, she needs a P test. They all need P tests. Because but the thing is this is a blessing in disguise, but it is also the way God works. The wicked are entrapped in their own devices. All these people really are dumb. They really, really, really are dumb. And you try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they really are dumb. And it's going to be a landslide. It's going to be a red wave.
Even Nancy Pelosi about Ocasio-Cortez's district, Nancy said that you could put down a glass of water with a D on it, and that glass of water would win Ocasio's district.
Yeah, they're talking about the blue wave, and it
make sure the voter fraud is gone. You see what I mean? We got to make sure that there's no voter fraud. I mean, because that's how Gavin Newsom got in.
Yeah.
That's how, a lot, Nancy Pelosi, all these people that made Nancy Pelosi speaker again, nobody wanted that woman in the Democratic Party speaker again. They did not want her. They had somebody else, and so, it's like I said, why would you want to put somebody in there that didn't do anything in the first place the first time? You see, this is how these people get in. This is how Jerry Brown won twice. Jerry Brown used to be the most hated person in California back in the 80s after Duke Mason. Duke Mason won like crazy.
Yeah.
And nobody liked Jerry Brown. So, Jerry Brown becomes Attorney General of Oakland, and of course, because that's, the only...
Well, now we have Gavin Newsom, which is Nancy Pelosi's nephew.
You see, this is how it works.
And she is a Democrat in a neighborhood in San Francisco, and that's why she keeps on getting elected, simply because she has a D at the beginning of her name. But she's in a district the size of a neighborhood, for crying out loud. But now they don't want illegal immigrants, and there's so many narratives now that they can't push that. Again, there needs to be some kind of false flag in the United States, and they're trying with this Denver thing. But I think Americans who are working in law enforcement in states and counties and cities, they're not playing this anymore. And one good example is I was reading about California, the U.S. Forestry Service. All of their DC-10s and their firefighting planes. And the Cal Fire, all the planes that we're having ready for California. Well, the federal government took some planes from Cal Fire, and they gave them to the U.S. Forest Service, and the Forest Service refused them. Well, good, because they're not playing that game. What's going to happen when Cal Fire doesn't have enough planes? Then they're going to have to ask and go through red tape to get planes. But by the time they get planes, it's going to be a day late and $1 short, like it was up in Northern California. That whole place that burnt down, and the Pacific Gas and Electric is taking the blame for it.
Yeah,
but it's not their fault.
Oh, well, it wasn't.
They could have cleared brush and everything, but they're told not to by the powers that be that want everything to burn up so they can have the ways eventually paved for that California bullet train.
Oh,
so I don't think the electric company is responsible for it. It's not their fault. The only reason why it's their fault is because they obeyed the powers that be and says, no, don't clean that up. It needs to be fuel for fire.
And by the way, Pacific Gas and Electric is part of Sempra Electric, which Sempra Electric is actually on the stock exchange.
Same with, in San Diego County with those fires, right? They tried to blame, and there's no evidence that it happened, but so they had to make it up. No, those were arson. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
They can get more, because California is going bankrupt. People don't realize that we are bankrupt.
Yeah.
Technically bankrupt. We're so in the red in California now. It's supposed to be the 5th, largest economy in the world. But no, and Donald Trump knows it.
Well,
so
I read up on Gavin Newsom's plan to go to what was it, El Salvador or Venezuela? Which country did he go to?
Had no business going there whatsoever.
Well, that to me seems like a good plan, and he turned them over to California business owners to fuel the tourist economy in that country. But it's already too late for him to have any good ideas, because what they want to do is paint us as Gavin delusional. Like what's that Trump delusion syndrome, right? Well, now they want to paint everybody who's conservative as Gavin delusional, because it doesn't matter what he comes up with, we're going to be against it. But it's too late. He already put a freeze on the death penalty for everybody as long as he's governor of California. So it doesn't matter what kind of good idea he's got to answer for that, and he has to be recalled.
He's trying to do the water tax again when it already has a tax on it.
Yeah, that too.
He's raised the gas tax again in California. Like he already, he's doing a soda tax. He's going to do a candy tax.
Yep.
They're taxing like crazy, these people. It's because they know they put us in the red line. They bankrupt California, so they're going after us for more money. They think we're a credit card. So, and like I said, voter fraud got them in there, and we have to control the voter fraud, because it's going to continue going on. That's how Obama got voted in. I guarantee it.
Yeah, so it's that, and now back to gun control again. Every time people, they look forward and they say, no, if you guys make this law, this is what it leads to. So we've been ridiculed and scorned and mocked because we've been saying, no, you want to confiscate our guns. And the Democrats are saying, nobody's going to confiscate your guns. Well, this guy that's running for 2020 Democrat presidential candidate, his name is Eric Swalwell, and he's a representative, he's a congressman in California. So
yeah.
I had to look that up. But let me play this clip from CNN that this Jake Tapper, I think his name is, from CNN. He's getting kudos from, of all people, Rush Limbaugh, because he says that was great that he actually got Swalwell to say what he said. So listen to this.
Congressman Eric Swalwell became the 18th presidential candidate to enter the race this week, with a formal kickoff this afternoon in his home state of California. Congressman Swalwell is joining me now. Congressman, good to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jake.
So, gun control is the central plank in your campaign. You wrote last year, quote, "We should ban possession of military-style semi-automatic assault weapons. We should buy back such weapons from all who choose to abide by the law, and we should criminally prosecute any who choose to defy it by keeping their weapons." Criminal prosecution for keeping assault weapons. What's the punishment for people who don't hand in their guns? Do they go to jail?
Well, Jake, they would, but I also offer an alternative, which would be to keep them at a hunting club or a shooting range. And the reason I have proposed this is because these weapons are so devastating. I've seen this as a prosecutor in the cases that I've prosecuted. We've seen these in the school shootings from Sandy Hook to...
And so he goes on and on and on, skirting the issue. He said it. People will be put in jail, right?
Yeah.
And what happened to that other state? I think it was Massachusetts. They had to turn in their 30-round magazines, anything more than 10 rounds, and a lot of citizens were turning them in, but the overwhelming majority of gun owners who had those magazines in Massachusetts, I believe, not Massachusetts. One of the northeastern states.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington.
Well, no, northeast.
Oh, northeast. Yeah, these people have short-lived lives.
And people underestimate California too. California actually has the largest constitutional militia in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet, like I say, it's not. We're not going to come to that because definitely there'll be a revolt. Because look, once we get the the Klan, I call them the Klan judges out, and the Klan politicians, and like I said, they're the Klan. It's not the white supremacy Klan. It's they adopted it from the Greeks, and the Greeks were mixed. They had a mixed Macedonian, Greece, all that stuff. So. It's the same, just to give a history lesson, it's the same type of secret society thing that the Greeks had. And that's where the Ku Klux Klan adopted it. And then some of them came out to be the white power people, which it was because of evolution. Evolution wasn't back in Greece that day. But when evolution became popular in America, that's when they started adopting their white supremacy. And that was the second Klan, not the first Klan. The first Klan that before Woodrow Wilson made them popular again and called them the Progressive Movement. And they're called progressives. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt, sorry to say, that toward the end of his career and he started another party, stopped becoming a Republican, which was a mistake in his life. It was the most stupidest thing he did toward the end of his career and end of his his reign when he created the other party. It was a progressive party, which that's where he didn't realize that they were part. And Teddy Roosevelt wasn't a Ku Klux Klan member; he hated them, but he liked the idea of progressivism, which is and evolution. And so that's where the Klan adopted. It was still adopted by the progressive movement, which the Klan was all for that, and the Klan took over and said, "Yeah, we're the white people. We're superior." Above black people and Mexicans and and Latins and whatever, and we are the superior race, which Hitler adopted and said, "Oh, we have a superior race. Okay, well then we'll get rid of the unwantable," And yeah. So you understand that they had blonde hair, blue-eyed Nordic thing, Nordic type, which was the superior, the Odins, and then he made gay statues of them. It looked like gay to me, but and the perfect man and the perfect woman and their blue eyes and blonde hair, which another group was like that was the Mormons. Believe that the perfect race is of Moroni's angelic race, which is the human race, are blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
And, so it goes on and on with this ridiculous, which is called a religion, but it's a false. It's a made-up piece of crap, whatever,
Yeah. Okay, back to the gun thing. I think it was Connecticut that was the one that passed that law about handed in their magazines.
The fake Vietnam vet that said he was in combat when he never was. He was stationed in the States.
Yeah.
And then they came out crying, "I'm sorry, I lied to you people," and they still voted for him.
Yeah, stolen valor.
Yeah.
They just came out with the anti-stolen valor law now.
During our founding fathers, man.
Yeah.
He would have been hard and feathered.
Yeah.
And humiliated, and then probably forced to move out of the camp into somewhere. You better go out and,
Yeah.
Actually, they probably would have hung him.
Yeah. So that region of the United States, I just looked it up. It's New England. I was thinking British Columbia, but
yeah, I know.
I had a brain freeze. But New England, it
British Columbia is Canada.
Yeah, that's one of their states, provinces.
Actually,
it's a province.
Actually, the conservatives out there.
Yeah, but the northeastern United States is liberal, and that is Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Those are the states that make up what we call New England.
Yeah, they're kind of stupid.
Yeah.
They just totally lost all. It's kind of odd and funny that you're that way. And in Massachusetts, they have the colonial district where everybody dresses up as, so it kind of shows you, how they keep voting in, where you got your history right there.
Yep.
That most of those people are anti-American, and you got the colonials and all our history right there, and it's like, okay, they're anti-American, and that's what a Klan member is. They don't like America. They can't stand our history. They continue to lie and say that we were slave owners when they were out. We actually freed the slaves, and the founding fathers were abolitionists, and they were. You got to remember, we were slaves of England.
Yeah, before the African slave ships started their business, they brought Irish citizens to the colonies.
But they also, all the peasants and the Puritans had to get out because of religious persecution, so they went to a neutral place called Holland, and the kids were getting corrupted by, because they were so, kind of atheistic and partiers, they always been like a hyper-Calvinist and had red light districts and stuff, so we got to find a new place, and they heard about America. And so they took a ship, and America wasn't a nation of anybody. And everybody goes, well, we took over from the Indians. I said, no, they were warring, dominating tribes that were at war with each other during that whole time. So nobody owned, they were all fighting for territory. And so, and I just laughed at these people in there. I'm like, where do you people come up with this bull crap about our American history? You don't know nothing about our American history. You just made this stuff up for your narrative.
Yeah.
If you actually read history, like my dad, I took a picture of, I go to my dad's house and he has another book. He goes, you got to look at this book. And it's like, I feel like that little kid again, I'm being punished again, because punish me with books, but no, actually I look at it and I'm interested. And it was about the Khan dynasty of Mongol and what they did.
I read a pretty fat book when I was in 6th grade about Genghis Khan.
Yeah. This was like a novel, more novel history. So the guy writes it like it was, he uses the history and writes a novel about it. It kind of adds a little thing, but like what he thought it would be like their conversations during the time of actual what really happened in history. But it kind of like they do with Jesus sometimes. They'll add because the Bible only gives it to you straight, and they have to kind of make it entertaining. They kind of keep it the scenario, but they add things to it, kind of so you see that there's a dialogue going on, instead of it being the way it is in the Bible. So that's what they did with this book, which I don't blame them. As long as they keep the history accurate, you can write a fictional story around it, or a fictional plot or scenario that happened in which is to keep you interested in history. And this book was about that Khan dynasty on that. So that's how it was written. And, pretty good look over about our history. And then this is what all these people that are anti-American, they're teaching kids in our colleges and all that stuff, like Elizabeth Warren teaching this crap, and professors. And I think it's time to end all the universities and the colleges, and because they're not higher learning centers anymore. Actually, they are the opposite.
Yeah, they're pretty much obsolete. 80% of what they're teaching you to get a university degree is useless. It's not that it's useless, but it's useless to have to pay for it.
Yeah, well, nobody should have to pay. Come out of college with what was it, 30,000 or more in debt just to be going to education, and when you can go to community college and get educate. What is it now? Like still $75 a semester or something?
Yeah.
You don't really need and plus books, you got, and they had a lot of used books. And I didn't want to go to university. I mean, I was raised at San Diego State, but I was like, I don't want to go here because it's too expensive. I take the same courses at community college.
Yeah, and I got a 2-year degree, and I was in there long enough to observe the whole time that the university system is not all what it's cracked up to be.
No, it hasn't been.
Basically, it's a bunch of people that are paying for a piece of paper so they could be scandalists.
And some probably go in there with the proper intentions, but if they had common sense, I can learn that. I don't know what prestige that you need. If we get, like I said, we don't need these universities. You want a perfect place for homeless. Well, take that, make the centers there, and put people up so they can get better and be, productive members of society.
Yeah.
Housing. And I don't know what they want to do with it anymore. But they're not learning centers anymore because you can the library.
Oh, I came out with the B+ too. I signed on the dotted line that I'm going to try to learn, so I did my best to learn. But you don't got that nowadays. People are paying for their tests, paying to have answers changed on their tests, and paying it to get in over people who are much more qualified.
Yeah.
But you hear about one of these actresses that was being charged. She says, well, I thought that I was just breaking rules, not laws. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Any cop will tell you that.
It's like, what is I understand everyone likes the college football and all that stuff. Well, we could do that with community colleges,
Yeah.
You could start, do what they did with baseball. We could still have football. Just got to change the format of things. We don't need these colleges any longer because they're just people, like I said, nobody's, what trade are they learning? It's like, I got to understand, you want to go to art school and be good at your art and do that, to sell art and to do art and whatever. They can have a separate school for that. And, it's like community colleges, I think, are still the best. As long as you don't get professors in there that teach you, you got to have people that will teach, creation science and evolution together and let people make up their own minds. That's the whole object of the whole entire First Amendment. It's not like, it's like you want to be Catholic, you want to be Baptist, you want to be Jewish. We'll teach it all. They even learn 3 languages. They learn Latin, some knew French, some knew Spanish. They all did. All the founding fathers knew you had to learn those languages in order to do business.
Yeah, all the way through up until the 1800s, throughout most of the 1800s, which is the 19th century. A lot of people get confused. Why do they call the 1800s the 19th century? It's just because that's the century, actually. But you could not get into university unless you speak and understand fluently Greek and Latin.
Yeah. Harvard was a place, you got to remember, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, they were all Christian colleges. Harvard was especially designed to teach pastors how to be pastors, and or theologists.
Yeah.
They all taught. They were all centered. They were all, and you learned your math, you learned your language.
And then came progress, and religion became outdated, and all the theories of evolution came into
and that was based on a fictional story by Erasmus Darwin.
Yeah.
Who took the pagan, the original form of technical evolution, which really it wasn't, was, the Egyptian method where they believed that, there was the plane, there was just the existence, or what they considered light, and out came this, out of this frequency or this light came Ra, and Ra came out, and Ra populated the planet. And out of these things came, his imagination of, I don't know, it's some weird Egyptian thing. And that was as close as you get to evolution. And there was another one, in the Hindus, where two gods of the universe, I guess he was mad at his wife, and he masturbated on the earth, and out came humans.
Oh, wow.
Out of the primordial ooze. Well,
yeah.
It's a wow.
He masturbated on the earth or something because he was mad at his wife.
Yeah.
I guess
that's their form of immaculate conception, I guess.
And out came the male dominance, and somehow that finally he took some of the seed and mixed it with his wife's whatever eggs, and they made Earth, and other creatures. I don't know. It's some weird thing I read once, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just, pagan, pornography of old,
Yeah.
It was still human beings, so that made the stuff up, and every god was a living human being at one time, because you can remember, you go to Genesis chapter 3, Genesis chapter 3 will tell you the whole entire story of how we got our other religions, and it starts with, you shall be gods. You should be like God, knowing good and evil, Satan said, and that's where religion started, right there on that very day, because, there's nothing to be religious about with Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
The fall of mankind was when religion entered in, so it was religious. When they ate the apple, they did an act of religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. They wanted to be their own gods, and well, there you go, there you have it, and it hasn't changed ever since.
Yeah.
That's why the Bible is very true, and that you can't swim through any vain imaginations or what God said in the second commandment, which I always stand on, is that don't make an image of me. What it means, don't make me out of an idol. Don't make things with your hands and worship it. That's not me. You have no concept of me. My ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Not your ways at all. In fact, God says, I am holy, I am separate, even from your imagination. He had to come down in the form of Jesus for us to go, oh, the Messiah, and most of us woke up, oh, it's you. Yeah, I became human form to show you, but you're not going to figure out God because he's so vast and huge, that he's the only one that had to take away the sins of the world, so he had to become one of us, And so, and take it away. But you got to remember, Jesus was God. God came in the flesh himself, fully man, fully God.
Exactly.
Basically, and then here's it's my sarcasm and my comedian about the story, is when, as tragic as Christ being on the cross, right? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I turned that around and said, damn, I'm a moron. Yeah. And so, ever since then, is not Jesus, he loved us all, but I'm like, that made me think, oh, I'm a moron.
Well, we love him because he first loved us.
Exactly, and we're all morons if we don't.
Yep.
We're going to die morons, and we don't have a chance to stop being morons and going, oh, he is God. Jesus is God. Oh, and he said that, he goes, you're done with religion. It is finished. Now just believe in me and follow my way. Follow me.
Okay, so Holy Week.
Oh, all right, folks. You just heard a conversation with myself and my friend Richard White from the heavy metal 1980s heavy metal band Battalion of Saints. YouTube, go to YouTube and YouTube Battalion of Saints, and you'll find Rick White. He's a good friend of mine here in San Diego, and grew up in my neighborhood together, Normal Heights and North Park. And but we never met, we never crossed paths until 2003, and I saw him at church, and he had just gotten into church and a homeless mission because he was on the streets. And thank God for Richard White, thank God for friends. You know, he's really my only friend. He irritates me, but he's my only friend, so I got to put up with him. And no, I got a lot of friends. But thank you for joining me on this, and Holy Week. You heard everything that we spoke about, gun control, California, our governors, and Notre Dame. And hey, wish them all the best. Prayers are going out for that area, and this is a tragic thing that happened. So keep the world in prayer, folks. So Holy Week, this is Wednesday. Palm Sunday was last Sunday. Jesus comes down on a donkey and palm branches in his path, and he gets arrested and tortured for a couple of days, and then crucified on Wednesday, the middle of the week. And by evening, when he passed away, the sky went dark. The earth shook, earthquake, and dead literally rose. And after 3 days, on Sunday, which we know as Easter Day, he was seen by Mary Magdalene. And from then on, it's history. She was the first apostle, first qualified apostle, qualified disciple, or qualified, disciple and qualified apostle. Because she was told to go tell what you have seen. So she went and preached, Jesus has risen. And I just hope everybody has a blessed Easter week, Passover week, and try to remain focused, because we just got hit. We just got sucker punched with this Notre Dame building. Same time that Genghis Khan was born, like 1162. This was going on. So anyways, I want to go ahead and end this broadcast. Thank you guys. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.